In this next video, I want to build on the last video where I showed you how to put an image in and add it to already existing layers and making sure that you rasterize your image so that you have all of the pixels guaranteed, or for sure. There's something going on in PhotoPea. When you insert a JPEG, it should already be rasterized, but for some reason you have to click that option and make sure. Again, just to recap, why are you doing that? When you zoom in, you need to make sure that you have your image as pixels so that we can start using some of these tools to change features or Photoshop our files, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know if any of you noticed, when you're using the zoom tool, you can use your keyboard. I'm just using Control minus and that zooms out. Control plus will zoom in. So you can do that very quickly if you needed to on any of your shapes and your colors. Okay. Another thing I want to point out, I just was poking around. There is a learn feature here. When you jump in, it goes to an online tutorial. And I went through a few things. It's actually pretty basic and it's very well said. I thought if any of you are having troubles, you can go through some of the very different, very basic concepts of all the different layers of PhotoPea and how the different features work, because some of them are a little bit different than, say, Photoshop, although the concepts are the same. So if you can't find something you need on YouTube or online or stuff, then you might find it under the online tutorials for the actual software. So I want to go into these projects and do a bit of photoshopping using some of the different tools. A few things. There are all kinds of tools here, and I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert at any of them, but a few basics. I just went through the zoom tool. When you're going back to select, you can hit on here. There's the select tool. There are some of the cropping tools up here, familiar from other software. If you can play around and practice with it. When you're drawing shapes, I think I already showed once before, there's a color picker tool right here. So you can go in and you say, okay, if I'm going to draw a shape, I don't know, something like bright green, that's the one. You click OK. And then if I go, say here, and I draw an ellipse, it's going to draw it in that funny shape. Why is that in that funny shape? Something like that. It should have been drawing in the green. If you have that in that layer, in that shape, if you click on here, you get this popping up, and under layer, you can go there and pick your color, and then it should go. If you change your mind, you can go there and pick that and say OK, and on it goes. So when you're not sure you've done it right, that's another way to go in, and you can click on it. You'll get the different ones. Look for the layer, click on here, pick something else, whatever color you want, and away you go. So you can do it that way as well. I don't want that layer, so I'm going to delete that, but that's another way that color tool can be used. There are some other ones here. This is called the eyedropper tool. If you click on it and you go in and say, I want that blue, so you put your cursor where you want it and click, there's the blue. So now that blue is your color choice for coloring. So the eyedropper tool is kind of useful for picking stuff like that. I'm going to use a couple of other quick tools. If you're drawing, you have the brush pencil tool. I tried the color replacement tool, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out, and I went through the tutorial quickly. I didn't see it, but I believe my understanding from using Photoshop is you can say, find all the pixels of this color and make them that color using the color replacement tool. So it goes around and you brush an area looking for one color. Any pixels of that color, switch them to the other color. I couldn't make it work. I don't know why I'm doing something wrong. I played around a bit, but it didn't want to work for me. So let's say I'm going to use the brush tool. If I pick the brush tool, it should color in that color. Okay, and you can't even really see it. It's coloring in there. With any of the tools that you pick up, you will get a properties menu across the top. So in there, you can pick the size of the tool, and now all of a sudden it's drawing in that color. So any tool you pick, check across the top here for all of the features of that tool that you can change. Some of you can sort of see that it's coming in a bit of blue. I'm going to hit Control Z and undo all that so you can change. The reason you don't see it is because I have the opacity set much lower. Opacity is kind of like tinted windows. The more the number is, the more tint you get. So 100% opacity means it's solid. It looks right through. You can't see through it. There's no tint. It's 100% color. Control Z. If I go all the way down, well, that doesn't show very well, but if I had, say, 30% opacity, it looks like it's tinted in the color that I'm drawing in. Okay, so look for those features up here. Make sure you know what you've got. You can change the size of your tool. So if you want it really big, you've got, like you can draw a whole bunch. Unlikely you want one that big, depending what the size is. You can also change the hardness or how hard of the edge is on what you're drawing. So you can play with that. And there's all kinds of different styles depending on the tool, so you can play with that as well. I haven't played with all these different types of drawing, right? You can, again, play with it, see what works. Different features for different ones of the tools. I'm going to jump to this other one because I want to show you something I practiced with and I tried. I'm going to go in here. I want to change this woman's white earring to the color of her beautiful scarf here. So I'm going to pick the color picker tool, and I'm going to zoom in here, and I'll pick roughly that color. So there's my color there I've chosen for that. And I'm going to zoom in. And when I did it before, I used, if you right click on them, you can see the different ones. So I did the brush tool, I believe. And I put the opacity down a fair bit. And I made the size, that's a bit too big for what I want to do. So I brought this side, I don't remember what I had, something, yeah, maybe like that. So I have that size. And then, oops, I didn't mean to draw there. I'm going to zoom in a bit more on that earring, and I'm going to pick, I'm going to pick my brush tool. Okay, here I go. So then I'm just going to very subtly change that. Now, if you hold your mouse button down, it will keep doing that. And if I change my mind, just Control Z and it takes it all away again. One stroke, Control Z. One stroke, and then the next stroke, Control Z just does that. Control Z again does them both. So what I often do is I keep it down and I just keep coloring slowly. And I'm going to just try to change most of that earring. And I'm not the best at all these things that I'm just learning, but it's fun to just play around and try different tools. So I'm going to do that. And before I accept that, there's another tool that I was using. There's a blur tool, a sharpen tool, and a smudge tool. Watch this. Again, when I choose the smudge tool, I get different properties that I can change. How strong of smudging do you want? 100% smudge? I think it gets pretty blurry. I played around 25-30%. And I'm just going to smudge the edge of that earring. You see what I'm doing? I'm just smudging it. In a sense, I'm just sort of blurring it in there. And okay, I didn't quite get all the white of the earring, but I'm just playing with it a little bit. I'm just gonna sort of smudgy, smooth it over. While you're doing this, remember pixels. I'm just softening pixels there. Oops, that didn't quite right. Control Z. I'm going to undo that. I'm going to try a little closer. Again, you can zoom in. You can play with the different tools, etc. Smudge that a bit more. I probably should go back and clean that bit of white up. You see it there? But watch this. I'm going to zoom back in. Can you tell? Can you see that it used to be a white earring? I probably could have went with more opacity and made it even darker to really match that. Very subtle kind of thing. Okay. If you start looking at photographs, you can start realizing, gee, if I zoomed in here, maybe I can get rid of this, whatever this is, and make it all look like that. If I pick the right tools, I can play around with the features of that tool and see if I can clean up my photograph and make it look, I have to be careful. I sometimes say it, make it look better, but I don't mean it better. I just mean it better, if you know what I'm saying. It's something to look at, okay? Finished. I want you to give it a try. There are many different tools to play with. I think the basic premise is give them a try. If again you're stuck, maybe you could consider going to the tutorial that's available or online. There's other things available. If in doubt, ask me. I will try to help you with the ideas and stuff, but I'm going to post the assignment where you're going to make your project, which will include some kind of an altered Photoshop file. Okay, that's it. Good luck.